and go the nuclear option, right? Just shut down the filibuster. All right, enough of this. They're actually inspiring people out there. A lot like, you know, what we're seeing on television right now. But it's like the Old West has come to life. They're inspiring us once again. How many know what I'm talking about? Made you want to go out there, didn't it?
Yeah.
I told my wife, I'm going. No, you're not. Sit back down. Well, didn't I say that, honey? Voter fraud. It does exist in Ohio, contrary to what Democrats have been telling us. There's no proof of any widespread voter fraud in Ohio. How many of you heard the Democrats say this over and over and over again?
Obama
Yeah, that's right. Well, here's what happened. Obviously, 2008, we got licked. 2012, we still got licked. But our folks that are all across the state, on the ground, working polls, registering people to vote, some of them are Board of Election officials, were calling our office with reports of irregularities, suspicious activity, and voter fraud. I had not been an adherent that there was widespread voter fraud in Ohio up until the last couple election cycles, and that's because we have a expanded early voting period, all the way out to 35 days of early voting. 35 days of early voting, including something called Golden Week, walk-in vote, mail-in ballot, and even court-ordered voting. Remember that? Right at the end, a federal judge told the boards of election that they had to remain open the Saturday and Sunday and Monday before the Tuesday election. Remember this? Everybody remember this? And that was the Obama administration, the campaign, the Obama campaign, pushing for that. And so it was so. Well, anyone who works the polls can tell you that they knew that that was going to be a problem right off, because there was no time to rectify the poll books before the Tuesday major presidential election. And there wasn't. Over the objections of Board of Election officials, the Secretary of State, that federal judge manipulated Ohio's election laws. And it did create problems. We're going to talk about that tonight. What did we do at the Ohio Christian Alliance? Well, we're getting these reports from our people on the field. And look, we've been around since 1991. First, the Christian Coalition of Ohio chapter changed their name in 2006, the Ohio Christian Alliance. Same mission, same work that we're engaged in. But again, our folks are heavily involved, working the polls, working the Board of Elections, registering people to vote, and doing it all lawfully, you know, and volunteering in many of their areas and efforts. So we have a good pulse on to what's going on out there. When these reports started coming in, I said, you know what? This is just too many reports for there not to be any there. Let's see what we can find out here. We put out our statement, some of you saw that, where we talked about the reports that are coming in. We were going to launch a citizens effort of an audit of boards of election. We'd start collecting information. We'd make it available to the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, the General Assembly, and members of the media upon its conclusion. Now, we thought this would take maybe a couple months. 12 months later, it took a full year to engage with this. By the way, all citizens-led effort, citizens audit, upwards of 44 county boards of election, across the state of Ohio, a combination of urban, rural, and suburban. And what we did was hone in on November 6, 2012, because this lady back here knows that at the end of the day, you make some notes, or even along the way, if there's some problem with the voting machine, or there's some incident that takes place, you make a little note in the book. So these are called poll workers' notes. Anything from, you know, as innocuous that the doors weren't open when we first got there and we had to do this and that, to where there was a fleeing voter. We saw this referenced a number of times. A fleeing voter, somebody in a hurry, you start the voting, oh, I forgot the laundry, you know, I gotta, what's a fleeing voter? And I thought this was almost a talking point that the training sessions were using, and nobody said, no, that's not a talking point. This was the expression that poll workers did, put down as someone who started the process, dropped the ballot, and ran out. Now, why would you do that? Unless you got scared at the last minute. Unless you were trying to perpetrate a fraud. You're in the middle of it, and you just kind of got weak-kneed about it, right? Or the opportunity wasn't there for you to sneak one past the elderly lady working the desk. You hear what I'm saying? Right? The elderly mostly work the polls. And when it gets flooded, I don't care who you are, because leading by example, I worked this last election in the inner city Akron, mostly an African-American precinct, is where they put me, at the Saperstein Towers in downtown Akron. So off your election, I thought this would be interesting. We have the touchscreen monitor in Summit County, as they do in Collier County. What do you have here in Lake County?
Same thing.
Wait, you have, I'm sorry, we have optical scan. Do you have touchscreen?
Yeah.
You have touchscreen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do you know the difference? What the optical scan is? Half the counties have optical scan, half the counties have touchscreen. The optical scan is where you take, almost like the old test you took in school, where you circle the, with a pencil the answer, right? And then it scans into the machine. It's actually a very good, so you have a paper trail, because you have a paper ballot. This is my mark on it, okay? I see there, you know, Matt Lynch, well, maybe, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Matt. Can't vote for you anyways. Not in your district, all right? My heart is with you, friend.
I'll take your prayer.
You've got them. And so anyways, you make your mark, and then you go over to the optical scan, you feed it in. And it goes into the count and all that. Touchscreen, of course, as you know, you make your mark on the touchscreen. Touchscreen monitors are about 12 years old now, thereabouts in the county, and they're reaching the end of their shelf life in some of the counties, especially in Franklin County. That's Columbus area. You know, you heard a few years ago that Collier County swapped out their touchscreen for optical scan. It was a good move on their part, by the way, because too many of these things were failing and breaking down. Remember the reports on Fox News down there in Marion, where the lady said, I kept pressing one candidate and the other candidate kept coming up, right? Well, it's not, there's no conspiracy. It's just the machine's not working. It's just not like your cell phone, the smartphone. The screens go dead once in a while. You know, they just get out of calibration. And that's what happens with the touch screens. And so, but when you go in to make your mark and cast your ballot, you want to make sure that your vote's going to count, right? You want to make sure this thing's working. You're depending on that. That's what the county's supposed to do. And the Secretary of State and the state officials used to have the IBM cards. They went to touchscreen or optical scan. We just want to make sure these things are working, because when you cast your ballot, you want to have confidence when you go in that your mark was made and your vote was cast. Am I right about that? So in Franklin County, we started getting these reports all over this big county of failure rate of the touchscreen monitors. Whole precincts shut down for 2 hours because the machine's down, waiting for the Board of Elections to bring another machine. This didn't happen in one location, it happened all over the county. So, you know, I've told the officials there, I said, you guys have to go to optical scan or something. You can't have your people, you know, going to the precinct and the machine's not working and this kind of thing, or when they go to cast their ballot, make their mark, that, you know, it's out of calibration. All these reports were being generated out of Franklin County. Well, they said, no, we're good. The Secretary of State even said, Chris, I've been telling them all along, they need to get rid of those machines in Franklin County. They need to go to optical scan instead. Well, fraud of the provisional ballot can't take place in a touchscreen monitor county. You won't have as much problem with that. And I want to get to that a little later in my presentation. How many of you know what a provisional ballot is? How many have ever cast a provisional ballot? Nobody here ever cast a provisional ballot?
I had to, they made me.
Right. And why did they make you?
Because I moved. Yeah.
Okay, you moved. So you weren't in the poll book. Yeah, so you moved and you went to the precinct, your name wasn't in the poll book. And this lady over here, or someone like her, she provided you, said, well, you can still cast a ballot, the Help America Vote Act, right, of 2000, remember that. And you can't turn anyone away, you have to provide a provisional ballot, it's federal law. That's where the provisional ballots come in. But we can pass laws on the state side, isn't that right, Matt? That address how we go around the process of our election laws. So we can shorten the days of voting. We can address issues with provisional ballots and how they're processed. We can even pass photo ID requirement here in Ohio. How many are in favor of that? Would you please tell the caucus that it polls off the charts, okay? Because I get this response everywhere I go. I told the good speaker, he even said to me, Chris, it polls at 70% a year ago. Somebody's holding it up down there, and we're going to have a rally at the State House right after the primary. I'm going to let all you folks know about it. We got to bring 2,000 or 3,000 people down there and saying, we